Sylvester Stallone, the ultimate underdog story. Hello, my amazing friends. Today I have something truly special for you. Listen carefully because this story will change the way you think about failure, rejection, and the power of never giving up. He is one of the most iconic action heroes the world has ever seen. He created characters that inspired millions. You must have heard about Rocky Balboa, John Rambo, and countless other warriors who fought against impossible odds. These are not just movie characters, they are reflections of one man's actual life, a life filled with rejection, poverty, humiliation, and pain. His influence is so great that the entire action movie genre would not be the same without him. Many phrases, training montages, and underdog stories we love today came from his brilliant mind and unbreakable spirit. But how did he become Sylvester Stallone, one of the greatest comeback stories in Hollywood history? He was not born into wealth or privilege. He did not have a perfect face or a perfect body. He couldn't even speak properly because of a birth injury. Yet he became one of the most famous names in cinema history. So if you are struggling today, if you face rejection, if people tell you that you're not good enough, this story is for you. Because Sylvester Stallone himself started with nothing, worse than nothing. He started with everything against him. This is a story of pain, persistence, and unstoppable determination. So sit back, listen carefully, and enjoy. This will not only inspire you, but also show you that your circumstances do not define your destiny. Your will does. The beginning, born into struggle. It was a cold July day in the year 1946 in New York City. In a charity hospital in Hell's Kitchen, a baby boy was being born. But something went terribly wrong. The delivery was complicated. The doctors had to use forceps, metal instruments to pull the baby out. In the process, they accidentally severed a nerve in the baby's face. The left side of his face was partially paralyzed, his mouth drooped, his speech would be slurred for life. His parents, Frank Stallone Sr. and Jackie Stallone, looked at their newborn son with mixed emotions. They named him Sylvester Gardenzio Stallone. Little did they know that this damaged nerve, this imperfection, would one day become his trademark, the very thing that would make him unforgettable. Hell's Kitchen in the 1940s was not a pleasant place to grow up in. It was rough, dangerous, and unforgiving. Street gangs ruled the corners. Poverty was everywhere. Violence was normal. Sylvester's home life was even worse than the streets. His parents fought constantly. His father, Frank, was a hairdresser and beautician, a tough, demanding man who never showed affection. His mother, Jackie, was an eccentric astrologer and dancer with big dreams but little stability. They screamed at each other day and night. Young Sylvester would hide in his room, covering his ears, trying to escape the chaos. The fighting never stopped. The love he craved never came. Because of his slurred speech and drooping face, other children mocked him. They called him names. They laughed at the way he talked. Teachers thought he was slow, stupid, incapable of learning. But Sylvester was not stupid. He was observing. He was feeling. He was storing every rejection, every insult, every moment of pain deep inside his heart. And one day, all that pain would fuel the greatest underdog story ever told. At age 15, Sylvester was already planning his escape from the chaos. He didn't know how, but he knew he had to find something, anything that would give his life meaning. He loved movies. Whenever he could scrape together a few coins, he would sneak into theaters and watch action films, westerns, adventures. For those 2 hours, he could forget his pain. He could be transported into another world where heroes won, where underdogs triumphed, where broken men became warriors. And then he thought, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could be in movies. It was an insane dream. A kid with a paralyzed face, slurred speech, no money, no connections, and no training wanted to become an actor. People laughed when he said it out loud. But Sylvester didn't care. For the first time in his life, he had found something worth fighting for. In 1964, at age 18, Sylvester enrolled at the American College of Switzerland, not because he was academic, but because it was a way to escape America and his broken family. There he studied drama. He returned to America and enrolled at the University of Miami, studying acting. His professors were not impressed. They told him his speech was a problem, his face was a problem, his body was too bulky for leading man roles. He didn't fit the Hollywood mold. But Sylvester kept going. He graduated in 1969 and moved to New York City to pursue acting full-time. And that's when the real nightmare began. Rejection, after rejection, after rejection, after rejection. He went to hundreds of auditions. Hundreds. Casting directors would take one look at him and say, next. They said his face was too droopy, his voice was too slurred. He looked like a thug, not a leading man. He tried everything. He auditioned for plays, commercials, anything. Most times he didn't even get a call back. When he did get small roles, they were tiny. A background extra, a street thug, a nobody. Money ran out fast. Sylvester couldn't pay rent. He was evicted from his apartment. He slept in the New York Port Authority bus station for 3 weeks. Imagine that, sleeping on cold benches, surrounded by strangers, with nothing but a small bag of clothes. He was homeless, hungry, desperate. To survive, he did whatever he could. He cleaned lion cages at the Central Park Zoo, he ushered at a movie theater, he even appeared in an adult film, something he would later deeply regret but had no choice at the time. He needed money to eat. One freezing winter night in 1975, Sylvester stood outside a liquor store with his dog, Butkus, a bull mastiff that was his only friend in the world. He was trying to sell his dog because he couldn't afford to feed him anymore. A man offered him $25 for Butkus. $25. Sylvester's heart broke. Tears streamed down his face as he handed over the leash. He had just sold his best friend for the price of a meal. That night, Sylvester hit rock bottom. He had nothing. No money, no dog, no hope. He was 29 years old, and his dream of becoming an actor seemed more impossible than ever. But sometimes, rock bottom is the foundation on which you rebuild your life. The turning point. A fight changes everything. On March 24, 1975, Sylvester Stallone sat in front of a television watching a boxing match. It was Muhammad Ali versus Chuck Wepner, a fight that no one expected to be interesting. Chuck Wepner was a nobody, a journeyman boxer, a guy who worked as a liquor salesman to pay bills. He was called the Bayonne Leader because he got cut easily in fights. Nobody gave him a chance against the greatest boxer of all time. But something magical happened that night. Chuck Wepner didn't just survive. He fought. He bled. He got knocked down and got back up. He lasted 15 brutal rounds against Ali, even knocking Ali down in the 9th round, something almost nobody had done. He lost the fight, but he won something greater: respect. He proved that heart mattered more than skill, that an underdog could stand toe-to-toe with a champion. Sylvester watched that fight with tears in his eyes. He saw himself in Chuck Wepner, a guy nobody believed in, a guy who refused to quit, a guy who just wanted one shot, one chance to prove he was more than what people said he was. And in that moment, Sylvester Stallone knew what he had to do. He had to write a movie about an underdog boxer. Not just any movie, his story, his life. He went home that night, his tiny, run-down apartment, and started writing. He wrote for 3 straight days, 20 hours a day, barely eating, barely sleeping. The words poured out of him like a dam breaking. He wrote about a small-time boxer from Philadelphia named Rocky Balboa, a guy who collected debts for a loan shark, a guy who was going nowhere, a guy who got one impossible shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. But Rocky wasn't just about boxing. It was about dignity, about self-respect, about proving to yourself that you're not a bum, even if the whole world thinks you are. In just 3.5 days, Sylvester Stallone finished the first draft of Rocky. He knew it was special. He knew it was his ticket out of poverty. But there was one problem. He had no money to make it, and no one in Hollywood knew who he was. The impossible deal, refusing to give up. Sylvester took his script to every producer, every studio, every agent he could find. Most threw it in the trash, but a few actually liked it. In fact, 2 producers, Irwin Winkler and Robert Chardoff, loved it. They saw the potential. They wanted to buy the script. They offered Sylvester $25,000 for the screenplay. $25,000 for a guy who was dead broke, sleeping in cheap motels, and had just sold his dog for $25. This was life-changing money. There was just one condition. They would not let Sylvester star in the movie. They wanted a real actor, a bankable star. They mentioned names like Ryan O'Neal, Burt Reynolds, James Caan. Sylvester said no. The producers were shocked. "Are you crazy? You're broke. You need this money." Sylvester replied, "I wrote this role for me. This is my story. If I don't play Rocky, then Rocky doesn't exist." They thought he was insane. They increased the offer to $100,000, then $250,000, then $350,000. Each time, Sylvester said no. Think about that. A homeless man, a guy who had sold his dog for $25, a guy who had nothing, and he turned down $350,000 because he believed in himself. His friends thought he was crazy. His girlfriend thought he was crazy. Even he wondered if he was crazy. But deep inside, Sylvester knew that if he sold that script and watched someone else become Rocky, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Finally, the producers made a deal. They would let Sylvester star in the movie, but the budget would be tiny, only $1 million. They would shoot it in 28 days. Sylvester would only get $35,000 for writing and starring, scale wages. Sylvester agreed immediately. He didn't care about the money anymore. He had his shot. And the first thing he did with his paycheck was go back to that liquor store where he had sold his dog. He waited outside for 3 days until he found the man who bought Butkus. He offered him $100 to buy his dog back. The man said no. Sylvester offered $500. Still no. Finally, Sylvester paid $15,000 and gave the man a small role in Rocky just to get his dog back.
That's how much Butkus meant to him. And if you watch Rocky carefully, you'll see Butkus in the movie, Rocky's dog. That's the real Butkus, the dog Sylvester refused to lose twice. Rocky, the miracle that changed everything. Filming Rocky was chaos. They had no money. They shot in real locations in Philadelphia. They used real people as extras. The famous meat locker scene, that was a real meatpacking plant. The ice rink scene with Adrian, they shot it quickly before the rink opened to the public. The iconic scene where Rocky runs up the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art, they had no permit. They just did it. Sylvester ran up those steps while the crew filmed quickly before security kicked them out. The entire movie was made with heart, sweat, and desperation. Everyone involved was an underdog. The producers were taking a huge risk. The director, John G. Avildsen, was relatively unknown. The cast, Talia Shire, Burgess Meredith, Carl Weathers, were not big stars. But they all believed in the story because it was real, it was honest, it was about something deeper than boxing, it was about the human spirit. When Rocky was finished, the studio didn't know what to do with it. They released it in just a few theaters in November 1976, expecting it to disappear quietly. But something incredible happened. Word of mouth exploded. People who saw Rocky told their friends. Those friends told more friends. Lines formed around blocks. Theaters added more showings. Rocky became a phenomenon. It made $225 million worldwide on a $1 million budget. It became the highest-grossing film of 1976. But that wasn't all. When the Academy Awards came around, Rocky received 10 nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Sylvester Stallone, and Best Original Screenplay for Sylvester Stallone. On March 28, 1977, at the 49th Academy Awards, Rocky won Best Picture. It beat All the President's Men, Network, and Taxi Driver, an underdog movie about an underdog boxer made by underdog filmmakers, won the highest honor in cinema. Sylvester Stallone, the kid with the paralyzed face, the slurred speech, the guy who had slept in a bus station, the guy who had sold his dog, stood on that stage in front of the world. He didn't win Best Actor that night, but he didn't need to. He had already won something greater. He had proved that when you refuse to give up on yourself, when you believe in your vision even when no one else does, miracles can happen. The Rise, from Rocky to Rambo. After Rocky, Sylvester Stallone's life changed overnight. He was suddenly famous. He was suddenly rich. He was suddenly in demand. But Hollywood is a strange place. One minute you're hot, the next minute you're forgotten. And Sylvester knew he had to keep working, keep creating, keep proving himself. In 1979, he wrote and starred in Rocky II. Critics were skeptical, sequels rarely worked, but Rocky II made even more money than the first film. The underdog had done it again. Then, in 1982, Sylvester took on a new challenge. He wrote the screenplay for First Blood, based on a novel by David Morrell. He transformed it into something deeper, a story about a Vietnam War veteran who was rejected by society, misunderstood, and hunted. Rambo was born. And just like Rocky, Rambo was an extension of Sylvester himself, a man society had written off, a man fighting for respect, a man who refused to be defeated. First Blood was a massive success, earning $125 million worldwide. But it was the sequel, Rambo First Blood Part 2, released in 1985, that turned Rambo into a global icon. Suddenly, Sylvester Stallone had two of the most iconic characters in film history, Rocky Balboa and Rambo John. Throughout the 1980s, Sylvester dominated the action genre. Rocky III, 1982, $270 million worldwide. Rocky V, 1985, $300 million worldwide. Rambo III, 1988, $189 million worldwide. Cobra, 1986, Over the Top, 1987, Tango and Cash, 1989. He became one of the highest-paid actors in the world. He was earning $15 million per film, an astronomical sum at the time. He bought mansions, cars, and everything he had dreamed of as a poor kid in Hell's Kitchen. But success brought new challenges, and soon Sylvester would face the darkest period of his life. The fall, when success turns to failure. By the early 1990s, something changed. The action movies that made Sylvester a star started to feel outdated. Audiences wanted something different. Critics who once praised him now mocked him. Sylvester made several big-budget films that bombed. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, 1992, widely considered one of the worst films ever made. Oscar, 1991, a comedy that didn't connect with audiences, Judge Dredd, 1995, a commercial disappointment, Assassins, 1995, forgettable. The hits stopped coming, the money dried up. Hollywood moved on to younger action stars, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Sylvester's personal life was falling apart too. His marriage to actress Bridget Nielsen ended in divorce. His relationship with his children was strained. He felt lost, empty, purposeless. The media turned on him. Critics called him a has-been, a joke, a relic from the 80s who couldn't adapt. Magazine covers that once celebrated him now mocked him. In 1997, Sylvester made a film called Copland. He took a huge pay cut, just $60,000, to prove he could still act, not just flex muscles. He gained 40 pounds for the role, playing an overweight, hearing-impaired small-town sheriff. Critics praised his performance, but the film didn't revive his career. Hollywood had made up its mind. Sylvester Stallone was finished. By the early 2000s, Sylvester was in his 50s, and nobody wanted to hire him. His films went straight to video. His name no longer sold tickets. He was forgotten. But there was something Hollywood didn't understand. Sylvester Stallone had been counted out before. He had been rejected before. He had been told he was finished before. And every single time, he had found a way to come back.
The Comeback, Rocky Balboa and Redemption. In 2006, Sylvester Stallone was 60 years old. 16 years had passed since the last Rocky movie, Rocky V, which was considered a disaster. Everyone agreed the Rocky franchise was dead. But Sylvester had an idea. What if Rocky came back, not as a young champion, but as an old man? What if the movie wasn't about winning, but about dignity? About proving you still have something left inside you, even when the world says you're done. He wrote a script called Rocky Balboa. He pitched it to every studio in Hollywood. Every single one said no. You're too old. Nobody wants to see an old Rocky. The franchise is dead. It'll be embarrassing. But Sylvester believed. He believed the way he had believed in 1975 when he wrote the first Rocky. He believed the way he had believed when he turned down $350,000 to star in his own movie. Finally, one studio took a chance. They gave him a tiny budget. They released it with low expectations. And then magic happened again. Rocky Balboa was a critical and commercial success. It made $155 million worldwide. Critics called it a beautiful, moving return to form. Audiences wept in theaters. The famous speech Rocky gives his son became one of the most inspirational movie moments of all time. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Those weren't just lines from a movie, that was Sylvester Stallone's life philosophy. That was everything he had learned from 50 years of getting knocked down and getting back up. Rocky Balboa revived Sylvester's career, but more importantly, it proved something profound. You are never too old to come back. You are never too finished to start again. The Legend, The Expendables, and Creed. After Rocky Balboa, Sylvester didn't slow down. He created a new franchise, The Expendables 2010, an ensemble action film featuring aging action stars who refused to quit. The Expendables became a massive hit, spawning 3 sequels and proving that audiences still loved old-school action heroes. But Sylvester's greatest creative decision was yet to come. In 2015, a young director named Ryan Coogler approached him with an idea. What if we make a Rocky movie, but Rocky isn't the main character? What if Rocky trains the son of Apollo Creed?
Sylvester loved the idea. He agreed to pass the torch to a new generation. Creed was released in 2015 and became a cultural phenomenon. Critics praised it as one of the best films of the year, and Sylvester Stallone, at age 69, received his first acting Oscar nomination in 39 years, Best Supporting Actor for Creed. He didn't win the Oscar that night, but standing on that stage, nominated alongside the best actors in the world, Sylvester had already won. He had reinvented himself. He had stayed relevant. He had proved that great stories never die, they just evolve. Creed 2 followed in 2018, Creed 3 in 2023. The Rocky universe continues, not because of nostalgia, but because the themes are timeless. The underdog, the fighter, the man who refuses to quit. The darkest chapter, personal tragedy. But even in his greatest successes, Sylvester Stallone faced unimaginable pain. In 2012, tragedy struck his family in the worst way possible. His oldest son, Sage Stallone, died suddenly at age 36. The cause was a heart attack, but the pain was unbearable. Sylvester was devastated. He had lost his firstborn son, a young man who had acted alongside him in Rocky V, who had his whole life ahead of him. Sylvester spoke publicly about the grief, saying, "When a parent loses a child, there is no greater pain. There are no words to express it. You just have to survive it somehow." He channeled his pain into his work. He kept creating. He kept moving forward, because that's what he had always done, turn pain into purpose. Years later, in interviews, Sylvester would say that the loss of his son taught him the most important lesson of all. Life is fragile. Success means nothing if you don't have the people you love. Every moment matters. The wisdom, what Sylvester Stallone teaches us. Today, Sylvester Stallone is 78 years old. He has lived one of the most extraordinary lives in Hollywood history. From sleeping in a bus station to walking red carpets, from selling his dog for $25 to earning hundreds of millions, from being rejected thousands of times to being nominated for Academy Awards. But what makes Sylvester Stallone truly legendary is not his wealth or fame. It's what he represents. It's what his life teaches us. Lesson 1. Your circumstances do not define you. Sylvester was born with a facial paralysis. He grew up in poverty. He had every reason to fail, but he refused to let his circumstances write his story. Lesson 2. Rejection is not the end, it's information. Sylvester was rejected thousands of times, but each rejection taught him something. It made him stronger, hungrier, more determined. Lesson 3. Believe in yourself when no one else does. When producers offered him $350,000 to give up his dream, he said no. That belief in himself changed his life. Lesson 4. Age is just a number. Sylvester made Rocky Balboa at 60. He was nominated for an Oscar at 69. He's still making movies in his late 70s. You're never too old to reinvent yourself. Lesson 5. Pain can be your greatest fuel. Every hardship Sylvester faced, poverty, rejection, loss, he transformed into art. Rocky and Rambo weren't just characters, they were Sylvester's soul on screen. Lesson 6. It's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. The legacy. Still fighting. Sylvester Stallone is not done yet. Even at 78, he continues to work, create, and inspire. He recently announced plans for more films, more stories, more characters.
His Instagram is filled with motivational posts, workout videos, and messages to his fans. He trains every single day, lifting weights, doing cardio, staying sharp. Because for Sylvester, stopping means dying. Moving forward means living. His films have grossed over $4 billion worldwide. He has created two of the most iconic characters in cinema history. He has inspired countless actors, filmmakers, and dreamers. But perhaps his greatest legacy is this. He proved that ordinary people can do extraordinary things.
that you don't need to be born special to become special, that the only thing standing between you and your dreams is your willingness to fight for them. Sylvester Stallone's life is proof that the underdog can win, not always in the way you expect, not always when you want, but if you refuse to quit, if you keep swinging, if you keep believing, you will get your shot. And when that shot comes, you better be ready, because you might only get one chance, one moment, one opportunity to prove that you are more than what people say you are. Sylvester Stallone took his shot, and he knocked it out of the park. Now it's your turn. You have a fire inside you. You have a story that needs to be told. You have potential that the world hasn't seen yet. Don't let fear stop you. Don't let people tell you you're not good enough. Don't let your circumstances define you. Because the truth is, you are stronger than you think. You are greater than you believe. You are one decision away from changing your entire life. Sylvester Stallone teaches us that it doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. What matters is that you get back up. What matters is that you keep fighting. So, my friends, whatever battle you're facing today, whatever mountain you're climbing, whatever dream you're chasing, don't quit. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Because your shot is coming, and when it comes, you need to be ready to grab it with both hands and never let go. Remember the words of Rocky Balboa, words that Sylvester Stallone lived every single day of his life. It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if this story inspired you even a little bit, then like this video so I know you felt the power of this message. Comment below and tell me, what's your dream? What's your fight? Let's inspire each other. Subscribe and hit the bell icon because we're on a journey of learning, growing, and becoming unstoppable together. My amazing friends, your future is waiting for you. Go out there and fight for it. And always remember, you are the hero of your own story. The world is waiting to see what you're made of. See you in the next video. Stay inspired, stay unstoppable. Keep moving forward.